Hello and welcome to the Extreme Cinema Podcast with me, Alexander Sternberg, and Dom Loach. How you been, Dom?
I am great, Sterny. How are you?
I am good. So what did we watch today?
Oh, we watched The Devils. I just love France, right? So this is French
So why not watch an
history.
incredibly cynical British portrayal of France?
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, the first question I want to ask about this film before we get into the context and everything is, maybe with the exception of Raw, is this the best film we've watched?
Oh, probably easily, yeah. It's such a up my street film anyway. So I explain this film to anybody who even slightly knows me, and they'll be like, "Dom, I'll love that." Like,
Yeah, basically. And I mean, it's sort of this absolute classic movie made by one of Britain's most acclaimed directors, and it's still so controversial, so hard to see, so a lot of people haven't seen this. This is really one of those films I should have seen, but I hadn't until this week.
yeah, same. I had never seen this before we went to do it for this, and it's a Ken Russell film, and I'd not seen it.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. I mean, the way to make the film is to make something that really pisses off the Catholics.
yeah, exactly.
And this one does not hold back. It's so
Yeah,
willfully provocative.
piss off the Catholics in the 70s, and your film is getting highly censored or just banned. Like,
That's the thing. I mean, we'll get into the censorship after sort of we chat about the film, but Ken Russell is a British darling, and he had, as we'll discuss, the censors generally speaking on his side, whereas so many directors didn't have that, and this was just one step, many steps, in fact, too far for them.
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, we might as well get into this film.
Yeah.
It's, it is fucked up. Like, it's very fucked up. Like,
It's very fucked up, but I think the primary thing I had with this, and it's the exact same experience I had with Tommy, Ken Russell's version of The Who's album, the film being, frankly, a lot better than the album is, because the album is far too long, is that I thought I was going in for some really kind of cerebral, thought-provoking, chin-scratching film, and I did, but it's surprisingly emotionally involving as well. Like, it's not just ooh, how clever. It's like, oh, I'm really into the character drama in this, as well as all the weird imagery and all the ideas about religion and politics and whatnot.
yeah, very much so. It is a strong character drama in there. Like, I think the thing that does stick in your mind the most is that striking imagery in this film. Like, it looks unreal.
It's a masterpiece. Like, the use of extras and colors, just magnificent. Ken Russell's just in like such complete command of everything on frame. And the sets as well, which very clearly, I read Metropolis was the inspiration, but the film that stuck in my mind was obviously The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari when watching it.
Ah, yeah, German expressionism. So
German
much on
expressionism.
play. Yeah. Like,
And
it's so obvious.
it really sets it apart from a lot of other period dramas. Did you see in the credits who did the sets?
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Derek Jarman.
Oh, okay.
And that was like, ooh, interesting. And also, this seems very up Derek Jarman's street. It's so
Yeah, I mean,
it's so chaotic. Everything that's on frame, like there's so much going on, especially later on in the film when everyone descends into hysterics. But it's sort of controlled. Like you can always tell what's happening, even though so much is happening at once.
yeah, exactly. And a lot does happen in this film. It's a heavy film.
Oh
Like
God,
it's
yeah.
like historically as well, like burdened. There's so much about it. It's not like a easy watch. And I don't mean that on an extreme side. It's not even an easy watch to like get your head around it all at first. Like,
Well, there's so many themes because there's obviously the kind of Jesus allegory on the one hand, and then there's all the themes surrounding religion, and then there's all the themes surrounding politics and religion, and then there's all the themes surrounding French society and the different factions and beliefs within France at that time, and then you have how it tackles class, and it's just you can discern all of this. It's so rich, and then you have the character drama within that, which also works.
Yeah, definitely.
Should we do the meaning of this first and then get into them, because it might for this one it might work better. We
could do, yeah,
because you've got, I think, the first obvious layer to it is the Jesus allegory, is that he's Oliver Reed is this rebel priest who is, killed for his heretical ideas.
Yeah, and it really happened as well, is the thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the church. I think the main idea of this is, religion as fascism. I'm obviously not from a Christian background, so it's sort of hard for me to say, but in the first scene, when everyone's marching around with, crosses on these sticks, the thing that stuck in my mind was Nazi Germany.
Oh, yeah, okay. I understand.
And then I was like, okay, maybe this is just, because it's obviously a bit of a pastiche. It's like an over-the-top portrayal, but only slightly over the top, which is typical Ken Russell. But then you got to the bit where they're in, the church headquarters. It's like this massive Brazil, as in Terry Gilliam's Brazil-style archives, and the door has this massive cross on it. I'm like, yep, he's making the connection between fascism and the swastika and the church.
And the church, yeah. Yeah, it is very, how, I mean, it's clearly not happy with religion. Let's just put that out there.
Clearly not. And, it's not just about an inquisition and the power of the church and the state in pre-revolutionary France, which was absolutely immense. This is not at all an exaggeration.
No, well, a lot of this is based on truth. Urbain Grandier was literally burnt at the stake after being convicted of witchcraft, which was just a political play, most people think, which I love. It's great.
I mean, at the end, when the Baron is speaking to Vanessa Redgrave, Ken Russell is making no bones about it. There's no, maybe they believe in it. He burnt them at the stake and basically, destroyed a whole city's society to tear down the walls so the state could move in. That's the only reason they did all this.
Literally only because he could have some power. That was it.
Ken Russell clearly sees religion and the church as primarily there for political power and not political power deriving from religion. The religion is there to conquer. And that's certainly, I mean, you'd be wrong to deny that about France in the 1600s.
Oh, well, yeah.
He's clearly saying something about British society, and, we're only a few years away from the Life of Brian fiasco here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was going to make a Life of Brian when we were talking about pissing off Catholics in the 70s.
That did it. There's some really great interviews of that. I mean, this pissed off Mary Whitehouse so bad.
Oh, of course it did. A film that attacks religion as a fascist ideal, it's gonna piss off some people, isn't it? And it's it's not, like you said, it's not even a subtle allegory.
It's not even and then you combine that with, the imagery, a lot of which is still not in the film, of, the rape of Christ scene where they literally, have sex with a statue of Christ.
Yeah.
And, masturbation with a Christian cross, and just these, nun orgy scenes when these, group of repressed women have sort of told, okay, if you act like you're possessed, we'll believe you're possessed, and then we're not gonna fucking murder you. And then they go nuts for the whole second half of the film. It's just incredibly well directed, and it's it is giving you that point in a not subtle way, but it's so striking and provocative. Like, you're watching this and being like, my God, this is so much to take in.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was talking about. It being just heavy and not even in an extreme way. Like, just been like, oh my God, everything that's going on here and everything that it's implying and putting forward is absolutely huge. For 1971. Like, this did so much before any of the other films. Like,
It still feels a bit ahead of its time.
yeah, even now it feels ahead of its time. People who saw this in 1971 must have had a heart attack. Like,
I mean, this is like before The Exorcist.
that's what I was thinking. It's the masturbation with the crucifix. The devils did it first, Exorcist. Like,
And then on top of the like religion, you've got all this sort of things about French society, because you've got not only the tension between Oliver Reed as the kind of moderate priest, who's not portrayed as a great person by any means, he's portrayed as a complete
No.
bastard, but you got him, then you got the fanatics, and then you've got the kind of libertines as well.
yeah, no, it's amazing. I love how everyone's just fucking horrible as well. Like,
It's so true. Like, no one except maybe some of the nuns are like good people.
yeah, I know. It's just like Louis the 13th, horrible person. Cardinal Ranello, horrible person beyond belief.
I love the scene where it's like just when the nuns have been told to act like they're possessed, and then the Duke comes in like his chaise lounge being carried by like naked servants, and he's like, and they, you know, the church people, they have to respect him because of his class, but he is like everything they hate.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing.
And then he just fucks with them with that, like, here's the blood of Christ, and then it's not. And then all the nuns are like, well, fuck it, we can go berserk now.
Well, it's like, it's supposed to have cured their exorcism, and then he's like, actually, it's not. So then they just go fucking mental anyway. Like,
It's got such a good sense of humor, this film. Like, it's sort of very near the beginning when he has a sword fight with a crocodile, and like, this is brilliant. This is so Ken Russell. It's very Tommy, that kind of humor as well. Because I've not seen much Ken Russell. I've only seen this, Tommy, and Lair of the White Witch Worm, which I saw ages ago and I didn't really like. Tommy's a masterpiece, though, as is this.
Yeah, Tommy's a masterpiece. This is too, yeah. And it's like, it's that absurdist stuff that he does, where it's just like, but it's a point to why it's absurdist, as like showing these aristocratic fucking 17th century, sorry, French people. It's amazing.
And I wonder if his portrayal of 17th century French aristocrats might be saying something about British upper classes.
Oh, maybe. Who knows?
Like, I love the scene when, you know, he's just stopped them tearing down the city walls and they have to go to the king for approval. And the papal emissary or cardinal, whatever, is explaining to him. He's like, I don't care. And he's just shooting, like, the Protestants dressed as birds.
Yeah, I know.
And he's just like, yes. And he's trying to, and the emissary's trying to explain, like, really detailed political why this is the power of the state. And he does not care.
Oh, he doesn't give a shit, basically. Can we also talk about how the insult fornicator is the greatest insult of all time? It's what...
It's so true. There's like a bunch, isn't there, of just like these non-crimes that
exactly.
insulting people with.
You fornicator. It's like, oh God, no. Like,
I love in the trial sequence where it's like, the devil told us this. It's like, and you believe him? And he's like, no response. I guess I think we should come on to the acting a bit, because Vanessa Redgrave and Oliver Reed, like, these are not B-movie actors. This is top talent.
Oh no, this is Oliver Reed. Everybody has at least heard of them, even if they don't know the acts. They don't watch much old cinema, I guess.
Vanessa Redgrave's in like every movie ever made, I think.
Vanessa Redgrave's in everything that's ever been. But, like, people have heard of Oliver Reed, even if they don't know cinema. Like,
And they're both just such brave performances. Like, they do everything.
Oh yeah, imagine I wanted to be on the room when they got the script for this.
Like, just like, yeah, sure, I'll do all this. I mean, Vanessa Redgrave acting crazy is just fantastic. And then Oliver Reed is not only like a great, great, very subtle performance of this very morally murky character, but, at the end when he's, the Jesus allegory really comes in and he's being, having to walk, not bearing a cross, but might as well be bearing a cross to his execution. That is hard going. And then when he's being burned at the stake, the special effects and his performance is just, it's actually horrific.
It is horrifying. Like, obviously, watching someone burn at the stake, never great. This is horrifying. Like,
but there's also and the historical accuracy of, yep, this is what the church was, this is what the Inquisition was. It was, a secret police force that would come and torture you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. Like, it's so good. I mean, you can tell how good it is. Like, it featured in Space Jam 2, Sterny. So, that's like...
We gotta talk about Space Jam 2. Yeah. The absolute irony of them being in Space Jam 2 as part of the golden Warner Brothers back catalogue, along with the Droogs in fucking Space Jam 2. And yet Warner's won't barely allow this to be released.
I had to bring it up at some point. That's such a punch in the face to people who like film or know anything about film. It's like, look what we own, the Devils. Here's a nun from the Devils in Space Jam 2. We'll not really release this film though properly. Like, what the hell?
I've heard people speculate that it was the designers having a bit of fun because they know Space Jam 2 is sort of nonsense, and one of them like, let's put this in as a kind of reminder that Warner isn't the great company, which is what Space Jam 2 is. I mean, you've actually seen Space Jam 2, but isn't it about Warner Brothers being amazing?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
What a... God. I mean, it's not like Space Jam 1 was good, but at least it wasn't standing for a company.
This is the Extreme Cinema
it was
podcast.
Actually Nike.
Welcome to our Space Jam review.
Welcome to our Space Jam review. Now let's discuss CGI ripped Don Cheadle.
Like, what world do we live in where we're doing a podcast about the Devils and we can talk about Space Jam 2? It just blows my mind. Like,
it's the Warner Brothers cinematic universe.
Yeah, same universe.
Because yes, this got cut by the BBFC, and it only got about 2 minutes of cuts because Warner cut a ton of footage before. And like I mentioned, Ken Russell was sort of a darling. So when it came to A Woman in Love, which was cut due to rampant homophobia, they worked with him on that, and they kind of just darkened the prints for nudity, and they took cuts out. Any other director, that scene in A Woman in Love would have been, which is like two supposed, I've not seen the film, so I'm just going on what I know, is two sort of supposed platonic friends having a naked wrestling match. Ooh, yeah. I wonder the subtext. That would have been just wholesale cut out, but because it was Ken Russell, they really worked with him. And then the BBFC got the Devils and were like, nope, sorry, Ken. We can't get you out of this one. Through all we've been through, I can't get you out of this one.
I can't get you out of this one, Ken.
Jim! Jim!
I can't believe you've committed suicide.
How could you have done this? How could you have made the Devils?
Oh no, we've got two off the rails. Nobody's gonna get it. Nobody's gonna understand what we're talking about.
Okay, I mean, we're gonna have to...
For anybody listening...
We could just stop and...
Yeah, just never cut. Just never talk about what we just did.
But yeah, like, two minutes... 2 minutes of cuts to the British release of primarily nudity and sexual violence. 4 minutes to the American version. But Warner's cut more footage out of it. Like, the Rape of Christ scene is meant to go on for 2 minutes, not 10 seconds. That's gone. And they refuse to release it. There is a director's cut. The British cut of this is 1:08 minutes. The American cut is 104 minutes.
Oh, wow.
The director's cut is 117 minutes, which was screened at the BFI, but Warner refused to release it. They also refused to release it on Blu-ray, which is why there is only a DVD of the UK cut, which basically only ever goes for full price. And they've been criticized by quite a few, most notably Guillermo del Toro has really gone to town on them for this, because it's an actual travesty. And the fact that they're still scared to release this movie because it offends fundamentalists is just a testament to how provocative it is.
Well, that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It was the Festival of Light back then. The fucking...
Yep.
And now
Mary
it's...
Whitehouse.
Yeah, Mary Whitehouse, Festival of Light. And now it's just crazy fundamentalist conservatives. Like...
Because this also, you need to do a bit of investigative work, but it has a habit of coming and going from streaming services really quickly and like random cuts of it. I mean, always the US cut, but it has a habit of like it was on Shudder and then suddenly taken off Shudder, and then it was on Criterion and suddenly taken off Criterion. Warner just do not know what to do with this film from 1971.
Jesus, yeah. It didn't weren't the extended version, weren't it found by Commode as well?
Yeah, they found it while doing a documentary on it, and Mark Commode introduced it at the BFI, and they used the editor of the film as well to put it in, and the editor was like, oh, I actually know where all this footage goes in.
Oh, well, that's pretty good.
So it is like a director's cut, basically.
Yeah.
I would love a Blu-ray of this just so bad. I'm sure one day we'll get it, but that day is not anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly.
It shows that we talk a lot about the government censorship, but corporations suck too.
Oh, corporations suck just as much. Like
I remember reading how Disney, when they brought Warner's, they were really pissed off. They just had to release Jojo Rabbit because it was too late to back out of that, because it goes against their brand. So had the script for Jojo Rabbit come in a few years later, it wouldn't have gotten made by Warner's, at least, because not Warner's, by Fox.
By Fox.
Disney bought Fox. Because that doesn't go against their brand. It goes against their brand.
That's horrific. Like, imagine trying to make films. Like,
imagine all the politicking you've got to do to just try and make something.
Yeah, to make something that's... I mean, Jojo Rabbit's not that insanely controversial, really, is it? Like...
It's more controversial in idea than execution. It's pretty sentimental in execution.
It's pretty tame, really. Like, it's not like...
But God,
clearly a lampoon.
Can't make a comedy. Can't make a comedy about a tragic event. It's not like Jews have used comedy to deal with tragedy throughout all of time, is it?
For literally
like
always.
Taika Waititi, who is Jewish.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it's not like Jojo Rabbit was sort of a big mainstream success and was a really heartfelt film and wasn't like, it wasn't even that edgy compared to, I don't know, like, a Mel Brooks film or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Jojo Rabbit, by the way. It was an outstanding work. It's my favorite Taika Waititi.
Oh, yeah, I think Jojo's really good as well.
We have gone on so many tangents today.
We have. I love it. I love the tangents. Like, I think this film just does that, though, because it's such a, like, pivotal moment as well of, like, how much it shows where film went and how film is handled. Like, it's such a case study. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely true. I mean, you could write a dissertation on the censorship and the impact of the film. You could write a dissertation on the film itself. I mean, you could write a book on the film itself. I'm sure someone has written a book on the film. It's just so unbelievably substantive. It's like there's so much to think about when watching this film and when researching this film and just when thinking about this film. I mean, I think it is one of the best films I've ever seen. I kind of want to watch it again now.
Yeah, definitely. I adored it. Also, as we always talk about, Ebert hated this. Like,
I didn't even look at what Ebert thought of it. This does not surprise me.
Ebert gave it 0 stars, Sturdy.
He gave Clockwork Orange 0 as well, right? And I think he gave Blue Velvet like 2 stars.
Yeah, he was a very weird. We always talk about Ebert. It always ends up happening. He It was a very weird critic where some
He
things it was
could
just
get
like,
some things so right and some things so wrong.
yeah, and it'd just be like, well, this is pornographic, and I'd be like, well, what? Like, didn't you start reviewing porn? Was that how we started? Like, I'm sure. Like,
Well, he wrote Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. I didn't know he started reviewing porn. That's very
I'm
funny.
pretty sure that's how his career started. Yeah.
uh, it's man, what a. I need to watch more Ken Russell. I need to see Altered States. I really need to see Altered States at this point.
Oh yeah, same. Like it's supposed to be incredible.
One more thing I want to bring up about the film, which I forgot to mention, is the music. It's like there's like the weird sort of freeform jazz, which is kind of reminiscent of the score from Naked Lunch, but also like the kind of folky classical stuff, but it's all messed up. Like it sort of sounds very traditional, like kind of traditional marching music, but it's just been put through a blender.
Yeah.
And it sounds completely messed up, and it just adds to like, it adds to how intense and how weird everything on screen is.
It's like they asked Nin to do a marching band.
It
Like,
is a bit nin.
Yeah.
It is a bit nin at times.
It is, yeah. Where the way it like sounds like it's just like you said, been put through a blender, but it adds so much to like the weird extremity that you're seeing.
You know what? You know what parts of this film reminded me of? Another film we should probably do on the podcast at some point because there's a lot to talk about. Caligula.
Oh yeah, it's very Caligula actually.
Like with all the like eccentricity on screen, not just eccentricity, like I mean the massive like orgy sequences, these scenes with lavish sets and extras and whatnot. But whereas in Caligula, whether or not once upon a time there was a real film in there, it's there for exploitation at this point.
Yeah.
This, not an exploitation film. This is a fantastic historical drama, a fantastic black comedy, fantastic kind of surrealist work, just a very engaging film and a very engaging, well-written, well-acted film.
Yeah, that's the thing. This film has so much to say. Like, so much to say. It's not just exploitation at all. Like, Caligula was the end of the 70s, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm not sure. I think so, or perhaps even the start of the 80s.
Yeah, it was around there anyway. So, I mean, you can...
Yep, 1979, bang on.
I thought so. Oh, I'm so good. It was obviously this was a part of what they were thinking there. Like it is very Caligula now you've said it.
I think, I mean, you talked about like earlier, like getting the script. I think it just shows what respect everyone has for Ken Russell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like he's a legend, like completely.
He was the British darling of the time, and they, you know, people, Oliver Reed, Vanessa Redgrave, they all got this script, whoever funded it, Warner's, and they were like, we will make this movie.
Yeah, definitely. He's like, I love how he always just takes like other works and makes them his own style. Like, it was so cool for doing that. Like,
He's so cool. I gotta rewatch Tommy at this point. I came into that and I was just like expecting like, you know, Rocky Horror Picture Show, but, you know, probably a bit more substantive. And Tommy is this very emotionally resonant work, and so is this. I mean, like Oliver Reed's character, the way he's treating the women he's seeing, and this sort of arrogance, like that confession scene is just captivating cinema. And yet, you know, by the end of the film, you really like him. I mean, he's a bastard,
yeah.
But you don't want him to be burned at the stake, and you certainly don't want him to be burned at the stake in the name of religious fanaticism.
Well, that's the thing. You might kind of hate him, but you definitely don't want him to die, and you don't want this even worse person to get power because he was burnt at the stake.
Like, you know who... I'm not sure who the actor is, but the person playing his assistant, like really fundamentalist monk with the haircut.
Oh, yeah.
He was just so good, and he was just so scary, because like he's the one you gotta be scared of. Like when he's teaming up with the Baron, with the power of the stake behind them, that's what you gotta be worried about, and that's kind of, you know, one of the central ideas of the film.
Yeah, that's the whole point, isn't it? At the end, like,
Yeah.
be terrified of the church.
Don't don't let the church get any political power because it's there to get political power. Also, by the way, this film pissed off a ton of Christians because the Festival of Light pissed off Mary Whitehouse, was subject to censorship and still won't get released now.
Oh, I
Suspicious.
can't imagine why. Like, what if the Christians were vying for power?
I mean, so this film, just briefly get onto the historic. I mean, what? Because I'm not too familiar with France at this time. This is a couple hundred years before the revolution.
Yeah, a few hundred years. Yeah.
I mean, you can really see, I know one of the major factors in the French Revolution was the power of the state. The church was insane.
Yeah, power of church and state. Yeah. And then it's, obviously, this is already, you can see the tensions bubbling up in a way that will eventually lead to the revolution. Like, the revolution
Completely.
was coming for so long in France. It was insane. Like, the way that the aristocracy have power over everybody. It was kind of inevitable when you look at the history.
Yeah, that's definitely what the film showed to me, because again, I don't really know much about France in the 17th century, but I know about the kind of some of the factors that led to the revolution and whatnot, and they're all, you can see them all here. This sort of uncaring, overbearing state, this massive wealth and class divide, and yeah, the church ultimately running this sort of evil bureaucracy, basically.
Yeah, the church
of persecution
had such a huge part in it.
After, one of the main contentious points after the revolution is what does religion play? Because, I mean, at a brief point after the revolution, it was state atheism, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
The Alex and Dom history podcast actually would be quite a good one.
That'd be decent as well. We both did history degrees, if you're wondering why we...
we both have masters in history, and yet we decide to spend 30 minutes talking about necromantic.
Yeah. This is the most historical we get, talking about an extreme film that is set in France. It's a historical setting.
But if you're going to show, especially in a surrealist way, a historical period and historical crimes like this, bloody show it like Ken Russell does. He's not holding back on the kind of state-sanctioned sexual violence.
Exactly, that's the whole thing. The past was fucked up, man. I know we don't want to look at it anymore, but, like, these things happened. This is not like I mean, obviously he plays it up a bit, but, like, this crazy stuff happened. Like, there were, like you said, sexual, like, state-sanctioned things that led to people having to do horrible stuff and being burnt at the stake for witchcraft and, like, being tortured. And, like, it's such a... I mean, Saulo shows it very well as well, which we'll do one day, I'm sure.
We will do. I mean, people focus on Salem. I mean, Salem is very interesting, and you've got the Crucible, obviously, but Europe had its witchcraft. France, Spain, Germany all had horrible inquisitions and witchcraft and whatnot. The Spanish Inquisition wasn't just this one-off event. It was an inquisition.
Yes.
The Spanish state were like, hi, come here and do an inquisition. And then they had sort of secret police in Spain for centuries, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. That's what happened. It was a normal thing, and it went on for thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, 1,000.
Yeah, it was just as horrible. Like, it's... I kind of love how fucked up the past is. Like, it's so good. Like, when it's amazing when it's Christians, like, lobbying against films like this, when it's like, this is your past, man, embrace it. Like,
it's completely true. I mean, there's obviously an unwillingness of any kind of fanatic anything to say we've ever messed up in history ever.
Well, yeah, that's very true.
I guess final thoughts on the Devil's Dom.
I mean, final thoughts is this is a incredible film. Like maybe the best we've talked about. That and Raw are up there. Everybody should watch it. It is a hard watch. It's historical. It's extreme, but it should be viewed. Like, it's a film that should be viewed. And it should be viewed even more because this was tried to be not shown for so long. that everybody should try and watch this.
I absolutely echo that, and that was exactly the point I wanted to hammer home. Everyone go and watch this. It's so good. It's so strange. It's got a sense of humor, but it's quite dark. It's really just, I think everyone listening will really like this film. I think people should seek it out. It's quite difficult to find at times, but god damn, it's such a good film, and it's a travesty we can't get a director's cut on Blu-ray of this.
Yeah, it's such a travesty.
So, Dom, what are we doing next week? By which I mean, what did we do last week as an impromptu episode and is being released next week and has kind of messed the flow up a bit of our cycle of going from kind of trash to more cerebral works to sort of, horror. What have we got?
So the thing that we've filmed already, just to break the curtain, is Possession, which is an incredible film, and you will hear us also talk about how amazing that is. So you get us talking about amazing films 2 times in a row.
You get one masterpiece and one near masterpiece in a row on the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Extreme Cinema Podcast with Alexander Sternberg and Dom Loach. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing, as it really helps us out. The original artwork for the podcast was done by George Arnold. The Extreme Cinema Podcast, available where all good podcasts are available.